got him, took him there, and when he had been put under a little treatment, they brought him back to his own home. Well, then developed a terrible dilemma. It happened that 3 days since, or 3 days afterward rather, that Dr. Bob must perform an operation, something he had begun, a piece of work on the operating table that he just had to complete. Here he was in a terrible state of the shakes. How could he possibly perform this operation? So Ann and I undertook a day and night tapering down operation. And on the morning of the third day, the day of the operation, it being about 4 o'clock, I looked across from my bed to that of Dr. Bob, and there he was, wide awake, of course. And he looked at me and said, "This is it. I'm going through with it." And I said, "Do you mean the operation?" Well, he said, "I hope the operation. But this way of life is for me." Well, he was still in rugged shape. Ann and I drove him to the hospital. Just outside, he had a final bottle of beer and 1 goofball, went inside and performed that operation. You can imagine how we felt sitting there in that car just waiting. But after a while, he came out, drove us home, and then disappeared again with his car. And when he finally arrived on Ardmore Avenue next, he told us that he had been making restitution to people that he had harmed. He was beginning to practice what we now know to be AA principles. So that was the beginning for Dr. Bob and for me. Presently, Dr. Bob said, "But Bill, shouldn't we be working on other alcoholics? I know I'd like to do this, and we'd better take out some protection for ourselves." Well, I said, "Have you got any ideas? Where can we find some?" Well, he said, "I used to be on the staff down at the city hospital, and they have a ward. They're always coming in there. Supposing I call up a nurse I know." So he called this lady and explained to her that he and a friend from New York had a new method of drying up alcoholics. And the nurse, with some asperity, still with good humor, I imagine, said, "Well, Dr. Bob, considering your performance down here, I hope you've tried it on yourself." And he said, "Well, I certainly have." So said the nurse, "Well, we've got just the customer for you. He's just come into emergency. He's black both eyes of one nurse. He's in delirium. We have him strapped down and under control." Well, Dr. Bob made a few suggestions for medication, which the nurse noted, and he said, "We'll be down tomorrow." On the morrow, Dr. Bob and I saw the man on the bed, a phrase that has become so familiar to all of us. We were visiting one of Akron's prominent lawyers. He had gone all to pieces. He had been in the hospital 4 times in the last 6 months. And as he hopelessly told us, he couldn't even get home without getting drunk. So I told him the nature of his malady, quoting Dr. Silkworth. Dr. Bob told his experience so far as he had come, and still the man on the bed shook his head and said, "No, I'm afraid this isn't for me. I'm just too far gone." It isn't a matter of faith in God. I have faith in God, but I'm sure he hasn't got much faith in me. But come back again, won't you? You fellas seem to really know the score. So next morning we came, and we found his wife standing there at the foot of the bed. And our new friend, Bill, cried out, "Here are the fellows. They know the score. They know what this is all about." And then he went on to relate how during the night it began to come to him, if these fellows can find it, so can I. Bill's story can be found, if you want to read it in detail, in the book Alcoholics Anonymous. At that very hour, Bill said to his wife,